As Christmas approaches, the government's announcement of a compensation scheme announced on Sky just a few minutes ago for victims of the Horizon IT scandal feels like another chapter in the long saga of institutional betrayal and half-voiced promises. Despite the rhetoric, one cannot help but feel that this is um, just words before Christmas, rather than a meaningful gesture of justice. If the proposed compensation falls short, failing to refund the money stolen by the post office or to properly acknowledge the harm caused, it will reinforce the narrative of power dominating the small guys who were bullied into surrendering their life savings, and in some cases, they were bullied into suicide. The government has officially recognized the scandal, but recognition is only the start of this uphill battle for justice and restitution. The Horizon IT system, rolled out between 1992 and 1999, was the post office's was the post office. Well, actually, it was the Capture IT system, which was rolled out between 1992 and 1999, and that came before the Horizon system. Much like Horizon, it was riddled with bugs and glitches that created accounting anomalies. And the government is hoping, I think, that the capture stuff is going to be included in the compensation. And the errors of capture led to sub-postmasters being wrongly accused of theft or false accounting, as indeed did the errors of Horizon. 200 prosecutions occurred within the first 3 years of Capture's rollout, and many victims, such as Steve Marston, were pressured into pleading guilty under threat of imprisonment. The story of Steve Marston, who was convicted in 1998 after being accused of a £79,000 shortfall, is emblematic of the human cost of Capture and then Horizon. And Marston insists he never stole a penny but faced relentless pressure to plead guilty to avoid prison, and his case mirrors those of countless others whose lives were upended by the post office's arrogance. Marston, now in his late 60s, voices the frustration shared by many. Time is slipping away, and the government dithers and tries to avoid responsibility. The post office dithers and tries to avoid responsibility. The bureaucratic oddities go on saying, oh, there's a difference between the post office and Royal Mail. There's no difference in reality. It doesn't matter whether you sold one off and you sold another off and they're privatized institutions. They're two arms of the same body. And the reality is, for ordinary people, we post a letter and it never gets delivered because the whole thing is so self-centered and so self-obsessed. Nothing works. And it doesn't matter if I post a letter today and it actually gets delivered next week. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to sing a song and do a jig because one piece of mail has actually got to its location, to its destination. The reality is we cannot trust any part of this shameful institution. That is the reality. Royal Mail, Post Office Limited, Horizon, and this other capture rubbish. It's all a facade of murky filth because none of it works, and it's all corrupt. And it hurts people. It hurts the sub-postmasters. It hurts the reputation of our country. We invented the post office, and we can't manage it. It hurts the people who rely on the post office. And it hurts anybody who wants to send or receive mail. And during this time, as Christmas approaches, you're expecting cards through the post? Expect away. It's not going to happen. I was talking to somebody the other day whose mother died from cancer. She received the letter inviting her to discuss her treatment about 3 weeks after her death. I received a letter inviting me to a funeral on the day the funeral actually took place, which was 10 days after my friend had died. Now, you can say this is the NHS which is to blame, or this is this other organisation. But in the end, it's also the post office, Royal Mail, because it doesn't work and you can't rely on it. And people used to think that sending stuff by post gives you a hard copy, which is something that you can keep, which gives you some sort of tangible proof. If you try, I've been trying to get stuff from the post office, from the passport office. I don't even know if my original letters were received. Nobody's going to tell me because everybody's working from home and everybody is too idle to actually help the customer. You ring up for support, you ring up the support telephone number, and you're directed to the website, to a completely impossible minefield of descriptions. And unless you get the correct description, you don't know how to find it. There's 600 or 700 different items which are on offer in the Home Office Gov UK rubbish. It's rubbish. We are overwhelmed by bureaucratic sleight of hand. And the government promised redress by spring 2025, with the Business and Trade Secretary Jonathan Reynolds urging victims to come forward. That's the victims of the Capture IT. An investigation by Kroll has already determined a reasonable likelihood that Capture caused unexplained accounting losses, just as Horizon did. However, the key questions remain. How will eligibility be defined? Will victims be adequately compensated for decades of financial and emotional damage, or will they be expected to crawl, like the victims of Horizon, to various officials to beg for what they regard as proper compensation? And why is blanket exoneration being sidelined in favour of lengthy case-by-case reviews by the Criminal Cases Review Commission? The scandal, like Horizon, is a testament to the malignant culture within the post office, the culture of laziness, which has invaded so much of our civil service and so much of our parliamentary regime. The culture that says that rhetoric is more important than reality. Documents from the 1990s reveal that faults with Capture were flagged up as early as 1995, yet the Post Office pursued aggressive private prosecutions, and even now records are incomplete, and the CCRC has admitted that the older the case, the harder it is to secure evidence. The onus, really, I think, should be on the Post Office to be paying, not the victims to be proving. The post office should be genuflecting down the street to everybody, because it is a foul, foul organisation that has demonstrated that in the end it is corrupt. Meanwhile, the post office continues to face scrutiny for its failure to prioritise justice over protecting its brand. Its brand has been cheapened to the point of uselessness, and campaigners fear delays reminiscent of the Horizon scandal itself, which saw victims wait decades for compensation, will continue, and the Post Office Minister, Gareth Thomas, insists that the government has learned from past mistakes. How is that possible after 25 years? The Post Office Minister, Gareth Thomas, insists that these mistakes have been learnt, but victims remain sceptical. Without immediate refunds for stolen money and a meaningful acknowledgement of harm, redress risks being simply a hollow gesture. For victims like Marston, every delay feels like a reminder of the suffering that they have experienced, which is dismissed as unimportant. The Capture IT scandal is not just a post office problem. It reflects an imbalance in power throughout our society, throughout the systems that have been set up. It illustrates how large institutions manipulate flawed technology to dominate individuals with devastating consequences. From the government, this is an opportunity to demonstrate its commitment to justice, not just rhetoric. And it fails, and failure to continue to act decisively will reinforce the perception that institutional power is more interested in self-preservation than accountability. The government's recognition of the Capture scandal, just as the government's recognition of Horizon, is a necessary first step, but it needs to follow through with real action, not just rhetoric. The government is involved, like the post office authorities, in a strupacious indulgence manustrupacious, and it's odious. It's self-indulgent, it's odious, and it's repugnant. And it's on full display. Recognition without action is merely a PR stunt. And justice delayed is justice denied. And for the aging victims of this scandal, time is a precious commodity, and if compensation falls short, fails to refund stolen money, or doesn't confront the harm inflicted by the system, this will be another case of power crushing the powerless. And as we approach 2025, the question remains, 25 plus years of misery. Will the government's actions match its promises in its words, or will this be another exercise in placating public outrage with empty syllables of nothingness? As I say, this is onanism at its worst public display, and it needs to be called out.